to tie another bonefish fly today. This is the Crazy Charlie. For those people lucky enough to be heading to some warm, salty waters to do a little bit of fishing, this is a great little shrimp fly. There's a number of different ways to tie this fly, and most how it's tied these days is a little bit different than the original pattern that was invented down in the Bahamas. This one, I show in a couple of extra little techniques that you don't see too often, but it's just a fun, simple fly. The right colors, you can also catch some warm water species with this. That is the Crazy Charlie. And I'll get started tying. Start the Crazy Charlie with my hook and the vise. This is a Tiemco 811S, a C71 mustad, I think would be the equivalent. It's just a small shrimp fly, shrimp hook. Generally, the Crazy Charlies are a short-bodied little shrimp fly. After debarbing the hook, I'm going to attach my thread. I'm going to use a Danville 6/0 in a tan color. Now, the Crazy Charlies, you can do them in different color configurations if you want. I'm going to be tying this one with a tan wing on it. Tan, white, and pink are very, very common colors for this. And you can match the thread accordingly. I'm going to attach the thread and have a little bump back here for my Bead-Chain eyes. I'm using this is a large silver Bead-Chain eye. This is a size 4 hook, by the way. I don't think I mentioned that. You can use dumbbell eyes on these for a little bit more weight. Again, you have to keep in mind where you're fishing, how deep the fish are, and how much you may or may not spook them in terms of if you're fishing for a school or singles or doubles or something like that. So I'm just using the Bead-Chain eyes. With my thread right behind the dumbbell eyes there, I'm going to tie in the body material and put a little head cement on that to hold that together a little bit more. Lots of people use different body material on the Crazy Charlies. I'm using a UTC. This is a round rib in a clear size large. A lot of people like V-rib and D-rib with this. Keep in mind the original Crazy Charlies were tied with monofilament. So just some old 40 or 50 pound monofilament was the body material for these. They were not a complicated fly. I'm going to attach this right behind those dumbbell eyes, keeping this on top of the hook shank. And I'm going to advance my thread backwards. Should say rearward. I want to do this in semi-touching turns, putting a layer of thread down. This is going to give me a certain color underneath, and I'll explain what I mean by that in just a minute. Now, the other body material that is used in this is usually some sort of a flat Mylar ribbing or flat tinsel. I'm going to use a pearl tinsel in a size large from Wapsi. A lot of people will like a mirage tinsel. Again, keeping in mind that what you use here is going to be putting some color underneath the body. So if you wanted a chartreuse or a pink or something like that, it's going to make the fly look a little bit more that color. The idea is that you get some color underneath this, and then you put this round rib or V-rib, whatever you're using, on top. The ribbing gives it that transparent kind of translucence color. You look at a lot of small shrimp out in the ocean, their bodies have a translucency to them. That's a word. where you can see some of the insides and things like this, and distinct markings on their bodies will stand out because some of their shell, their exoskeleton or whatever, has that translucent aspect to it. I'm just building up some thread right here to give this kind of a taper. If you have a larger thread, you could certainly use a larger thread to make this a little bit quicker work. And I'm also going to employ a technique here that I was taught a long, long time ago that I don't see often used in tying these particular flies, but because of, again, that clear rib that we're putting on here, I should say clear body, you can actually add some accent to this fly. So I'm going to put in a few turn whip finish here to secure my thread and just take that off for the moment because I'm going to use some brown thread here. This is a UTC 140 denier in brown, and I'm going to use this to put in a few stripes on this. Just going to start right back at the rear here. Got to keep in mind, contrast is a big thing in the water in terms of if the critter that the fish is seeking to eat has a high contrast with its environment, it can see it easier. If it has a low contrast and it blends in, it's much harder for the bonefish or the smallmouth or the permit or whatever to see its prey. So if we make this all, say, clear, and it's a real light sand, it's going to be harder for the fish to see the fly, even though it's fairly close to them. So we add in just a little bit of accent here. And this is going to help this to still look like a shrimp, but stand out a little bit. Not so much that it may spook the fish off, but just enough to catch its eye. Whoops. Speaking of catching eyes, let me recover that. This can get kind of tricky. Just take your time with it. These don't have to necessarily be perfect. You can also, if you want, make them skinnier stripes back here, maybe getting a little bit wider and as you move forward. I chose brown simply because it is a nice high contrast. You could put black under there if you want, but it is a nice high contrast to that tan, and it's keeping within the same kind of color scheme. We'll put one more just up behind the eyes here, a little bit wider. Now that flat pearl tinsel that we have in here, I'm going to apply it now. And what it's going to do, it's going to cover up these just a little bit. They're still going to show through, but if you want them to be a little bit brighter, then you're going to put this Mylar on first and then put your stripes on. And I'll show you in just a second here. So a little head cement, kind of secure all that just a little bit. Take my tinsel and wrap that around. The pearl tinsel and or mirage tinsel just adds a little bit more color underneath, still kind of keeping with the effect there. And I should have attached my thread, and I didn't. So I will do that now. So we'll secure that in and wrap that down. Now we're going to put in the round rib. I like to flip this over when I do this because then it's easier to work around the hook point. You're going to put this round rib in, and you just want to make certain that each wrap is just going right in front of the previous. I'm going to try and minimize any gaps. If you do get some gaps in there, I don't think it's the end of the world because I think the fly still looks very, very good just the way it is. Pull that up underneath between those eyes right up to the front there, and we'll tie that in. So as you can see, the stripes here really do kind of look almost like, I probably should have got one more wrap in up front there, but they look, translucent. They look like it looks a little more natural. This one was tied with a little bit lighter brown thread, and those are actually on top of the Mylar. I also did this one just so that you could see it even more pronounced. This one's in a fluorescent pink. Those are also tied on top of the Mylar body, or the Mylar tinsel with just the vinyl rib over them. Experiment with it a little bit, have some fun. So with my thread hanging about the middle of that head space, I'm going to tie in some flash. I'm using just some pearl crystal flash. Tie that in, get a few wraps rearward, fold the other over, and wrap that in. I've got my thread right up behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to leave these long for right now because now I'm going to tie in the wing. The original Crazy Charlie, the wing was tied with rooster saddle. So it was just a couple of saddle hackle tips that were up on this on both sides of the hook. So you don't have to make it complicated. You could go ahead and use the rooster saddle if you want. Most people these days will use calf's tail. I've got some tan calf's tail here. It doesn't have to be real thick because it's a full-bodied material. You're going to tie that in so that the tips of that will go maybe about half a shank length behind the bend of the hook. And I like to trim the crystal flash a little bit longer than that wing, so that's why I left the crystal flash long, and I'll trim it afterward. I'm going to collect this all down and then wrap forward to get this all lashed down to the hook shank. Careful right there, my thread wraps popped off of the butt ends of that calf's tail. This is why you really want to make certain you get that wrapped in real well down there before we advance down to behind the eye of the hook. You're going to have to put some wraps in behind the eye of the hook, slowly climbing on those wraps and on top of that hair. As you can see, every time a wrap gets in there up above, it is grabbing a wrap of thread and pulling it down over. That's because of that abrupt ledge, the butt ends of that hair. Just take your time with it. Create the head by wrapping from behind the eye of the hook rearward. Once I get that in, I'm going to go ahead and put in a 4 or 5 turn whip finish. I can trim away my thread. Get that calf's tail swept back a little bit so I can see the overall length. And then I can trim this crystal flash, and I'm going to trim it just uneven lengths, some a little bit longer, some a little shorter. So you could also put some epoxy or hard as hull or some sort of resin on here, UV or something like that, if you want to try and protect that a little bit. It's a very, very quick little bonefish fly. You could tie this also in some chartreuse and pink colors, and I think it'd be a great little crappie fly. Hair kind of goes wherever it wants to. That is the Crazy Charlie, and again, another classic bonefish fly. Quick and easy tie, and a little tip on putting those stripes in, which you don't have to do that if you don't want to, but keep in mind that you're trying to get some color under there and that kind of translucent aspect to it. That's the Crazy Charlie. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. And what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.